300. What's the deal? It's your folks, Shaka. Wanted to share my thoughts with y'all real quick. So yeah, I caught this clip here from a Tariq Nasheed show, and I thought it was a good backdrop to share a greater message. In this clip, he features a girl from Kenya by the name of Anna. And I thought some of the things they were talking about, like I said, was a good backdrop to speak on identity, something that I spoke on a lot. And I guess I would say the diplomatic relationship between so-called black people and, the other Africans outside of black culture. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit play, and I'm going to stop here and there and speak on their conversation. Let's go.
People in here on this lovely Saturday. Anna, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, Anna. Now, where are you from?
Kenya.
Kenya. Okay. Are you in the UK? Because I hear a UK accent.
Yes, I am.
All right. What's on your mind, Anna?
Why are we not getting along, though?
What do you mean, why we're not getting along? We're getting along great. We're just getting some straightening.
Yeah, I feel like there's... In Kenya, we say violence. I feel like there's so much violence.
No. It's good. Everything is good. We're just getting some straightening. We're just letting people know what the deal is, so that there's not going to be any kind of confusion and disrespect. We're just making people put the respect where the respect needs to be put.
I completely agree with you. As human beings, we are all entitled to respect.
Mm-hmm.
And we are all entitled to the things that brought us to where we are. And by things, I mean struggles. Like, we've all struggled. And just because we're Africans, it doesn't mean that we don't understand struggle. And I'm not trying to, by any means, make your struggle minuscule or like at any point make it lesser, because obviously your struggle is way more than our struggle, I suppose. But when it comes to us versus white people, I think that we are on the same side.
Okay, I wanted to stop right there. I spoke about this a lot on that TikTok application. But man, always, or I would say never take any group of person, okay, outside of so-called black people seriously when they pull up and they try to make some type of cultural connection with you by way of this whole struggle talk. Okay? Alright? That is gang. Okay? And it's one of the easiest ways these other groups of people, especially Africans, try to pull up, okay, and associate themselves with so-called black people. Alright? And in my opinion, that so-called black people, when they pull up talking like that, you got to check that. Because the truth of the matter is, if she was for real, okay, she would be pulling up, letting us know who she is, okay, where she's from, and what she has to put in the game to take to a higher plane, okay? Because, see, that's what it's about. If other so-called Africans are going to come together, if so-called black folks are going to come together with these other Africans, it's not about this coming together like in the movies. I say this a lot. It's about working together, okay? And building constructive things that will mean something, okay, to the collective involved. And it will equal something that we can all take back to our respective groups. And they can benefit from as well. And we can continue to get better with that over time. Okay, if it was for real, that's what it would be about. Somebody pulling up talking this whole, hey, I struggle like you, and man, that's nonsense. Okay, that ain't nothing but somebody trying to pull up and be cool with you and try to benefit, okay, from what they believe are the luxuries of your culture. And you can tell with her, because you could tell talking about though, you know what I'm saying? That don't come from over there, that come from over here. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I just wanted to say that. And then when she got to talking about against white people, one thing so-called black people got to understand, all right, which is also game, because the number one people that be saying that, them be the number one tap dancers for so-called white people. All right, they ain't really about that life anyway. Okay, but you know, it's not about that. All right, it's not about this versus white people thing, man. What it's about is building something, like I said, that is going to be constructive, that you, your community, and your people can benefit from, that's going to see them as a better people tomorrow. And you got to defend that stuff, okay, from whoever. But it ain't about this whole, you know, us versus white people. We gonna take the whites down, like in the movies and stuff like that, man. A lot of y'all be tripping, sounding ridiculous. All right, this is reality, okay? What you see in these other people is exactly what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? Over the course of time, no matter how they got it, you know what I'm saying? They attain these things and they defend it. Okay? All right? They do what they have to do to ensure that, to the best of their ability, that they keep what they have. All right? And so that's just it. That's all it is at the end of the day. And if these so-called other Africans are to be taken seriously, okay, they are going to pull up, okay, in alignment with what I was just talking about, okay? Not this old nonsense talking about, hey, you know, we are part of the struggle. Man, get out of here. Just like she said, our struggles are not their struggle. So how we going to find common ground on that? We got to find common ground on something that we can be constructively come together and build. If it's going to be anything at all. You know, not that we're asking for it. Okay? Because to be real with you, they're the ones pulling up the most, trying to make this argument. Not us. And that's one of the number one reasons why we got to start asking them, what do you have to put in the game? You dig? But let's keep going.
I don't think that we should be having so much animosity between ourselves, or we should be putting ourselves down, or we should be thinking any one of ourselves is better than the other person. Because, and I know, like, I've spoken to a couple of American spaces, and I've been made to feel like because you're African, you are somehow lesser, and like we are better than you. And I've been called fresh off the boat.
And see, you know, y'all, one of the reasons why I don't even like having these kind of conversations with these Africans, okay, is because they just lie, okay? Like what she's talking about. Number one, so-called black people on record, you can kind of look up and just look around and see. All right, we have made the most invested effort to make a connection with Africans. All right? And there has never been a time when we have collectively made it seem like we are better than Africans. Okay? It don't add up with what she's saying. And then she got to talking about, because see, the thing is, they are really like that. All right. And see, that's why I don't even waste my time with them, because they don't take accountability, okay, for the role that they play in the division. Because the truth of the matter is, they are the ones that set over in their countries, and some of them over here, okay, and believe all of these various different things about themselves above us. And then when the age of information came, all right, and they started getting online and they started looking up and they realized that we are the Africans that have done the most in modern times. This is kind of like what you get. You know what I'm saying? Instead of them owning up to how they played the game, they will pull up and try to associate us with how they play the game. Okay? And see, they really don't have much to work with. Like what she's talking about right now is, well, I've been called names. You see how she pulled that out of her hat. They always bring that. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to them telling us about why they believe what they believe about us, it's always the TV show. Alright? And when it comes to them telling us why they got the impression that we had some type of bias against them, it's always we call them a name or something like that. Something that you just absolutely do not see among adult people. You know what I'm saying? They talking like out here in the pedestrian world, they're having encounters where so-called black people are pulling up saying these things to them. Okay? You know, I've said this before, and this is a fact. So-called black people are the only group of people on this planet that do not have a collective hate for no group of people, especially other Africans. All right? So her just saying this, and with all of these facts just said, you don't really get anywhere with them with these conversations. Okay? That's why I always say the conversation got to be who you be, where you from, and what do you have that we can put in the game and take to a higher plane. Alright? Anything else is a waste of time. Because they just going to sit there and lie about it and do all this old nonsense. But let's keep on going.
And you know, all these terminologies, and they don't hurt my feelings because it's irrelevant to me. But I think that as black people, we must be on the same side.
And I want to stop right there. Black is a culture specific to people of African descent with generational lineage out of America. Okay? It never existed in these other places. Alright? In these other places where she come from, and she's going to speak on something a little later in this little clip that's going to back up what I'm saying. You know, they don't call themselves black. Like I told y'all, they start calling themselves black when they start getting online, you know, seeing that they weren't responsible for much of anything. So instead of them paying homage, they kind of like try to take the slick road and say, well, hey, I'm black just like you. We as black people. Okay? Alright? And that also makes them exempt from being held accountable for what they ain't taking care of over there. Alright? They can kind of escape over here, whether they come over here and associate or just be over there by association. Okay? And hide away from the other stuff. But they're going to get into that a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and hit play. But we got to keep that in mind, because that's a major thing that's going on today. These people pulling up, calling themselves so-called black. And you know, again, when I was on TikTok, if you're on TikTok, you know about a lot of those videos where so-called black folks in a lot of these urban cities are very upset because they are seeing a lot of these foreign Africans coming in, getting these various different benefits and things like that over them. And so they are now waking up, okay? Y'all sitting around calling these other people so-called black and allowing them to associate themselves with being so-called black. That ain't the business, man. Okay? It's bigger than what y'all think it is. But let's go ahead and hit play.
Cannot be fighting against each other when we have somebody else who is against us to fight with.
Right. So now with that mindset, ma'am, you're going to have to infuse that into the mindset in Kenya and the rest of Africa.
But I can't. This is the idea of human agency.
See, she don't really care about that, but just what she say, somebody fighting against us, so-called the Caucasians in the areas that they're in, they ain't fighting against them. They ain't got to. Okay? Alright? A lot of y'all better wake up and understand a lot of that stuff that's going on over in those places is because those Africans willingly, okay, gave up a lot because they did not care. Okay? They ain't doing much fighting against Caucasian rule and things like that over there. So what she's saying is cap, but when he turned around and told her that, hey, you gotta turn around and do that, she like, oh nah, she don't care about that. See, they don't care about that. Alright? That's the thing. Alright? They're trying to escape from that. And one of the ways that they do this, one of the primary ways they do this, is by way of associating themselves to so-called black people. Okay? A lot of these people are more invested in trying to argue with black people why they should be associated with being black and things like that, over worrying about what's going on in Africa and being invested in things that will make them a better people. She don't care about none of that. Alright? That's the whole thing about them. Alright? Especially the ones that are over here. Okay, in America. They don't care about none of that stuff that's going on. Okay, back over there in Africa. Alright? But what they do want to do, because since they don't care about anything that's going over in there, okay, what do? They try to associate themselves with the Africans that have done the most in modern times. Okay? And so you got to understand that. And a lot of them are kind of like trying to pull up and try to say, hey, we here to reinvent so-called black people. Okay? That's how much these people don't really give a damn about where they come from. Alright? The only time they care about that stuff is when they're trying to differentiate themselves away from you. Okay? And that's just real talk. But let's go ahead and hit play.
But the thing is, ma'am, there's so much infighting and tribalism in your homeland. And that mindset that you're telling us, it has to start there. Y'all have to stop doing it there, because there's so much infighting and tribalism that's there that has undermined the progress there. And then when you leave there and get among other blacks from other cultures like us, that same mindset is still present, and it tries to undermine us. And that's when we're saying, hey, enough is enough. We're not going to have that mindset among
Tariq,
us. Yes, ma'am.
Tariq, listen. I, first of all, never call myself a black person, because I am not somebody who is identified by their color. I am a...
Exactly. Y'all see that? Y'all see that? Okay? Now, basically what I was just telling y'all, where she's from, they don't call themselves black. There is no group of people by the name of black. Okay? So-called black did start as a classification for Africans in America. Okay? Alright? Just like white was a classification of a Caucasian in America. And these things eventually evolved into cultures. Okay? Cultures that I would say need to be corrected, but they evolved into cultures. Alright? Over there, where she comes from, that was never the case. Alright? they never called themselves black. None of these other places called themselves black, okay? Not until the internet. But as you can see, where she comes from, and look, pretty much where she's at, that's pretty much what they're with, okay? They probably only claim so-called black when they get online and they want to associate themselves, okay? For whatever reason. Whether they like hip-hop or whatever. Y'all know the usual. But let's go ahead and hit play.
Human being, I am an African. Wherever I go, I don't introduce. Even when they give me the list of who, like, you're registering on a medical thing, and they're like, who are you? Black British, Black Caribbean, Black. I just put other because I'm none of those things. I'm an African person.
And I don't know what she's talking about. The application. But see, this is the thing. This is the reason why we can't allow these so-called other groups of people to be doing the classifications, no matter what they put on their applications. You dig? We have to create our own classifications based on whatever sources. We bring them together and we make it make sense. Okay? When you look at these other groups of people today, okay, and how they playing the game out here, who lack all culture, they don't have it, all right? That's why they are the most needy group of people on the planet, despite y'all being brainwashed into thinking different, okay? This world is being ran like a sitcom, okay? They'll change whatever at the drop of the hat, just to try to make some agenda work. But you know what I'm saying, what she's talking about is not accurate. Okay? The reason why she don't, if that does exist, the reason why she don't check that stuff on that application, because that's not how she's culturally raised. Okay? She identifies as a African and then a Kenyan and whatever her tribe is. Okay? That's real talk. Let's go.
And I am not identified by the color of my skin. I am African, and if you put African there, I will take African.
Right.
You see that? She said if the African was on the application, she would pick African because she is African, Kenyan, and then whatever her tribe is. That's how the game go, for real.
And that's the problem. We're black. We identify as black because we're in a system of white supremacy. So we understand in order to combat that, we embrace our blackness as a way to collectivize and get us on code against the oppressive system. You look at yourself more territorial. I'm an African or I'm a Kenyan.
But I am an African.
You are?
Yeah, I am an African.
Which is fine.
Yeah, kind of like what he was saying right there was kind of cap. Like, you could even go back to the DJ Academic show he was featured on. He acknowledges that he is of African descent first, okay? African is just the phenotype, okay? Okay? African descent, okay? So, if he claims that he's black, he is of African descent, and he's a black culture, what he called FBA, okay, or whatever. All right, and she comes in and says, well, I'm African, because he says she's African. See, the thing is, I believe that she also has the correct understanding. I'll give her that we are all African, but we are of different cultures. I'm thinking that she's more leaning towards that understanding, which is the correct understanding. Okay, you will get a better, more cultured people. They're more likely to have a better understanding. Okay, and so I will say that. But then another thing I wanted to say on what he said, he pretty much said that we collectively invest in who we are as somewhat of a response or a defense mechanism from the what he calls white supremacy. All right, But I don't believe that. Okay? You establish community and culture and you invest in it, again, I repeat, so that you can build, okay, constructive things within that community and culture that's going to see your people as a better people tomorrow. Okay? It's not about them, okay? Unless you are having to defend what you have built, your community and culture included, from them, okay? That's what it's about at this stage, all right? So I wasn't really understanding what he was saying right there, but I just wanted to say that. Let's go.
I'm not. We're not. We're foundational Black Americans. But when we say
I'm
that,
so confused. What does that mean?
And, I don't have to say this, not every so-called black person, aka person of African descent with generational lineage out of America, is FBA. We got to be clear on that because I'm not FBA. All right, you know, I'm not FBA. I'll just say that. Let's go.
that we're told that
Black Americans.
we're told that we're xenophobic by understanding and accepting our ethnic group. Now, what's wrong with us identifying as foundational Black Americans?
So there is no problem with being xenophobic. I think every culture and every absolutely every human culture has.
Well, a lot of groups do have a problem with it, somewhat. They have a problem when you do have somewhat of a standard for your community and culture. All right. And, a sense of identity behind that community and culture because they can't come in and exploit it. Okay. Because, see, it's one of the reasons why we are always on the outside of their culture. All right. And so when they see so-called black folks, kind of like starting to have some pride or whatever in their so-called culture, that's kind of like bad news for them. All right. Especially when they don't really understand it because it doesn't allow them the access that they typically would have if you wasn't really standing on anything. Okay. And so they do be kind of like having a problem with it when it comes to so-called black people. Alright? And so, yeah, even when they say they ain't, in my opinion, these kind of people, like who he's talking to right now.
The right to identify itself as to what it has, it sees or defines itself as. There is absolutely no problem with people identifying themselves as who they are. I'm not saying that you are wrong for identifying yourself as a black person. You are. That is, if that's how you see yourself, then absolutely you should do that. But all I'm saying is that I, as myself, see myself as an African person. And if I go anywhere and there are other black people, even though they might not identify as African like me, I also see them as my people before I see any Indian, Chinese, or white person as my person.
That's big cat. That is big cat. Alright. If it came down to a situation like that, alright, the only way they're going to jump on your side as a so-called black person is if they have to. Alright, because the truth of the matter is, they got a much better relationship with these other groups of people than they do you. It's one of the reasons why they just almost freely sit over there and exploit their land and resources and just continue to take over at an exceptionally fast rate. Okay, that's one of the reasons. And when you look at the record, all right, I always say this, especially to these so-called Africans that pull up and say these things. The truth of the matter is, so-called black folks got on record doing things, whether it's constructively and just socially, with various other groups of people, all other groups of people, over Africans. Okay? And we talking about here in this country. Okay? Alright? And that's just real talk. But she'll pull up and kind of make this statement that she made. This is big cat. This is not a reflection of Africans outside of so-called black people at all. Okay? That's the last thing they want to do. They will do it if they have to. Well, let's keep going.
Then why are people over there so broken up based on tribal differences?
Because the same way you're saying about xenophobia isn't just something that is a color thing. Xenophobia is a culture thing. Now, for example, in Kenya, we have 42 tribes, which means we have 42 peoples, each with their cultures, with their language, with their way of life. So these are different people. I think the same way you would think of then, like if we take ourselves as the human race, why is there any sort of xenophobia in the human race? Because people have the tendency to divide what is me and what is other. And this is...
I wanted to stop right there. I mean, she has a point. I think, in my opinion, the question I would have asked is, why do y'all have a hard time with working together? You know what I'm saying? To get anything done. Alright? See, it's easy for her to kind of like get that out of the way and kind of break that down to him. Alright? But the truth of the matter is, yeah, she's right. You know what I'm saying? People are going to always have little groups, but I think the bigger question is, why can't you work together? And to be real with you, that's a question that you ask Africans all over the world. So-called black people as well. It's about being able to work together. It's not this idea where people are going to come together as one and all this and that. I mean, maybe do some of those groups need to kind of like consolidate over there? Possibly. You know what I'm saying? But, in my opinion, it should be on a constructive type of basis or whatever. If that happens. But the more important thing is, why are they not able to really work together and, claim what's rightfully theirs, which is their land and resources. Alright, and use it, alright, as something that is going to see them on out to their people, on out to the world as a better people tomorrow. Okay? That's the bigger question. Especially when I guess they're indigenous to that land or whatever. So yeah, but let's keep going. Because I think you're gonna hit on that.
The issue. It isn't because we are the same color, therefore we must be homogeneous and have the same sort of mentality.
Right. And now, and I've been to Kenya, ma'am. I've been over there. Because I've been over there to the Serengeti. I've been there. When you have the East Indians there, they don't break themselves up. They're East Indians against you all.
They dominate and they dominate.
And they dominate the commercial sector there. Also the Asians as well, over there in Kenya. They're dominating the commercial sector. They put all of their little Asian tribal differences aside and dominate you all as one big Asian group. You see the difference?
They don't dominate us all. They might dominate the economy to some
That's dominating you all, ma'am. When they dominate your economy, that's dominating you all. I think over there, they're about to take over the airport. Did they take that over yet, if I'm not mistaken?
I think you mean the seaport.
Right, well, the seaport, and also they were going to take over the airport over there. The Asians were going to have control over the airport there. So that's dominating you, man. When they can control your economy and your trade routes, they're dominating you. And you're still talking about, well, I'm a human being.
Okay, Tariq, I think that perhaps being, I think that...
Okay, but basically what she goes on to do is get to capping about him claiming that, so-called black people are better than some of the Africans over there, which she did lie about it, okay? Just like she lied about saying that people called her names earlier before. I wish I would have kept that little part in because it just backs up what I was saying. The reason why I don't have these conversations with them is because they kind of lie. Okay, to have a stance in the argument or whatever. But just the last thing I wanted to hit on, as y'all can see, pretty much what I was talking about is what he said. You know, a lot of those Asian groups over there are kind of dominating them because they are coming over there, and it ain't about them coming together being one group and everybody's the same now. It's not about that. It's about them coming over there, working together to achieve a common goal. Okay? And that is what it is absolutely about, man. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day. And that is one thing that those so-called Africans, they do not like talking about. Okay, when it comes to their situation over there, or when it comes to us. But as so-called black folks, man, we got to have a standard. Because at the end of the day, they don't have a problem with pulling up, tap dancing, working with these other people, bringing the best of their talents over here, helping them continue to build what they got going on. You know what I'm saying? So so-called black folks got to have that standard as well. So somebody like this, I would ask them, who you be, where you from, and what do you have we can put in the game to take to a higher plane. It's 300.